It was September 11, 2001, New York City. I was riding the subway into work at around 8 o'clock in the morning. It was a typical morning. The city was bustling with people. I was on my way to NBC Studios at 30 Rock, and at the time I was a producer for a local news show called Today in New York. I never could have imagined that morning would go down as one of the deadliest and darkest days in our country's history. All of a sudden, the train came to an abrupt stop, and we all looked at each other, and we all knew that something was wrong. Police began yelling and screaming for everyone to get off the train, get off the train, get off the train. In fact, I can still hear those screams in my head today. I got up to the street, and I turned around, and that's when I saw the World Trade Center on fire. No one knew what was going on. Some people were running, others were crying, but I just stood there, frozen. It was like I was watching a movie. I snapped out of it. I started running to work, and I remember getting into the newsroom, and it was total chaos. The assignment desk was trying to figure out exactly what was happening. Anchors were on the air with breaking news, and all of a sudden, I watched on TV another plane fly into the second tower, and it was at that moment that I had no idea that terrorists were attacking us. I had no idea what was going to happen next. All I do remember was getting some adrenaline rush. It's hard to explain, but it wasn't fear. I just remember saying to my boss, "What do you need me to do?" And my boss looked at me and very calmly told me what to do. There was no panic in her voice. This was major breaking news, but even to this day, I always remember how calm she was. It taught me so much, and I often reflect back to that moment when I cover breaking news to this day to be just as calm as she was. She told me to head out into the streets with a reporter and get a lot of interviews, do live reports, find out what happened, find out how many people were injured, how many people were killed. There were so many missing people. Families were coming up to me and they were asking me if I knew anything. People were trying to call their friends who worked in the towers, but no one even had cell phone service. And I realized at that moment how important local news was. These people could only get information by watching the news. We had to help these families, even as our country was under attack, even as clouds of dust and debris came barreling toward us. We couldn't leave. We had to stay and report what was happening. We had to help these people find their loved ones. We had to report about the toxic debris that we would eventually come to find out was killing those brave men and women first responders. I know it's so crazy to say this, but there was no other place that I would rather be on that day. And as tragic as 9/11 still is to this day, that is the biggest story that I will ever cover in my life. And I knew at that moment that I wanted to be a journalist.